G. Edward Patterson III has brought us the honest and plain village of Scio. His company is called the Skull is Complete Gentleman Company. He gave us a groat's worth of grotesques, which I did a video on. You should check it out, with a lot of crazy old art and some wacky creatures. Very nice and chunky. So this is his new release here. This is an OSR adventure mini setting for low-level parties, levels 1 to 4. It says it's inspired by weird historical primary sources. It takes the players on a journey to the effing absurd. And that is very true. So it's a bunch of setups, not scenes. There's no plot, no ending or beginning. There's random encounters and events that make the village feel busy and urban, and faction events keep the village from feeling static. So the village is part of the Oricon setting, a mythic false Oregon, for your Northwest American fantasy needs. However, it is compatible with the most standard medieval fantasy campaigns. So what are some of the highlights for your players? And this is going off of just what he wrote on the title page for the book, which you will find, of course, linked down in the description if you want to pick it up. It says, finding immensely powerful but not entirely useful relics that no low-level party should possess, meaning a treasury of knaves and confidence artists, learning new spells and feats, advancing the character's abilities in-game, exploring a small tomb where an ancient mummy yells long-forgotten expletives, one of my favorite parts of the whole book, getting drunk on soil beer, which is a bad idea, drinking teas with mythical effects, some are ultra hallucinogenic and cause visions to become reality, way too many factions, buying a home and learning the struggles of home ownership in a fantastic setting, playing a tennis match using a board game simulation, which is very cool, getting caught in the middle of bizarre local festivals, rolling on a custom magical mishap table, a missed sessions table, tables, more tables, and subtables. Looking at full page player illustrations, barrier peak style, getting arrested and going to trial facing the rooster judge while the GM guides the process using a metaphorical dungeon, finding allegorical beasts, and Mad Libs. It says, compared with the overall complexity, it requires little preparation. One read through with a pencil or PDF markup software is sufficient. Areas to write in game stats and pages to rip out for handouts give it a workbook feel. It is campaign friendly, meant to be used as a base of operations for a dungeon crawl, but works as a standalone town adventure. There are multiple points that lead to undefined areas where the GM can plug in other adventures. So let's take a look through it. So it does have 2 PDFs whenever you pick it up. Because one of them does not have this flowery type of header writing up here that you'll see all throughout this book. It'll have 12-point fonts. It'll have it's hyperlinked, so these locations here, you can click on them and it'll take you straight to them on the PDF. Like anything that's big and kind of upper, more, it's not more uppercase, but it's just larger. Real estate table, you'll click on that, it'll take you to it. It's going to be one column, so it's going to be a little bit more pages than what this book is in the normal PDF. And it's very useful, and I'm glad that there's both of them, because some of these fonts are very difficult to read. It's going to irritate some people, understandably so, but he's obviously trying to keep an aesthetic that he started, and it's what he likes. So that it is. The font itself is a little bit thin, but you kind of get used to that. But yes, these fonts here can be difficult to read and can be vexing, but you kind of get used to it. So what's some cool things to look at in this? Well, for starters, he has a preface here that kind of explains his idea for coming up with it. It's very humorous. It's written very in a very interesting sense, and a lot of this book is just wacky. It's very difficult to do a video on. I've tried many times now, but there's just so much in it. It's cram-packed, with it being only 73 pages. There is a lot of content here. It's wacky. It is truly absurd, like it says on the title page. This is a helpful section here, how to use the supplement, starting it with the players who are probably new to Village of Scio. And then the Game Master lore here is a great way to break down for you what's going on in this crazy village. There's some very interesting things going on with ancient, relics that have somewhat some power, with a bunch of factions, a bunch of societies that live within the village that try to throw around their weight. So it's just very, very lively, I would say. So I do like this piece of art here. It's the player's map of the Village of Scio. They come up over like a hill or something. They get to see the town or village from a distance, and it shows you where different areas are that are going to be on the map that you'll have. So I really like that, and I wish that other books of settings or mini settings or locations would have these cool pieces of art that you can see the town, the city, the village from a distance. That's very helpful. Obviously, a lot of this art is old art, but he's used it to great effect, which I think is one of his strongest things that he kind of gravitates towards. So here's the Body Basket Society. All these things I don't remember 100% what they are. Of course, I do know that this is the tennis champion. He's ripped like I am, but I have more clothes on usually in my day-to-day life when I'm walking outside, unlike this gentleman here. Some cool pieces of art there. You got to kind of flip this around. A bit of nobility here. Here's the carp children, children with the faces like carp. Here's a cool picture here. It looks like a normal kind of trees in the outland there, but right here we've got this big giant, looks like a big lobster or crab claw that's sticking up out of the ground. That will be explained a bit later. It's going to be very fun. We've got some cool pieces of art there, and then we've got the player reference illustration index telling you what those pieces of art were, and then an overall map kind of going from point A to point B here. So from the market you can go to the tannery district or the nobles, or go across to the square. So you see how that kind of works. So there's a lot of tables, and a lot of them are very fun. So random encounters outside the gates. You roll a d10, and then it's going to give you, on a 1 or 2, you're going to consult the encounter table below, and it's going to be a d20 that you'll roll on, and there's a lot of wackiness out there. So there's a thing like here, the young man with a great gray sash approaches the party and introduces himself as the newly appointed Goose Master. He wants to know anything that they know about any type of geese, and he's writing notes in the large book. Of course, there's some geese right here. So it's interesting that it's like he looked at this and then just kind of decided to bring this to life. This is actually a place that's in the village, highlighted, and I believe it's called the Cup and the Cucumber. And it's an outside tavern that sells soil beer and cucumbers. So some very fun stuff here just on your way, on your outside the gates of Scio. And then it's going to break down kind of the areas that are in the village. So like the outer residence and the east gate. So it shows you where they link up. So the east gate to the market. And then when you're in there, you're going to have the Cup and Cucumber, the Traveling Menagerie, the Goose Master's Cabin, and then where it can branch off from there. And again, on the PDF, you'll be able to click on that and take you straight to it. Very interesting stuff. Then it's got some stuff here for the different people within that location, such as the stats for the Goose Master. This is going to be pretty much normal OSR type fare, with a level 3 fighter, their attack, and what their armor class is like in relative to a type of armor like plate or none or whatever you may be. So within these pages, there's a ton of stuff to talk about, and there's a lot of weird, absurd stuff. I just can't talk about it all because it's just so much. You've got Gibbet Hill, you've got Miserable Cabins, and sometimes there will be a roll that you might make. And like at the Gibbets, there might be some activity or something going on in that area. So we got that happening. Then you've got random encounters inside the village gates. And it's going to be the same thing again. A d20, on a 1 or 2, some stuff may happen, and you're going to run into, like here, a darling raccoon with pleading eyes stands nearby. A random party member tests wisdom to stop the raccoon from picking their pocket. If the raccoon is followed, it will run into the Body Basket, which is an area in the town. An old woman with a tunic, eye full of wonder, walks fearfully down the street. Her name is Yanatic Bumfit. She is hungry and asks the party if they have seen any midden piles. If they answer in the negative, she claims fart and fist. She speaks common, though her dress and manners are foreign. She is easily frightened, very confused, prone to running away in incomprehensible rants. So there's just some wacky characters that run up and say some wacky, crazy stuff to you. And they may try to sell you something. They may try to lure you into beating you up. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So the market is obviously very bustling with activity. There's some really cool different types of teas, many of them made out of strange items. And some of the teas have effects that might mess with you. Hallucinogenic, loose tongue, stimulant, ultra hallucinogenic, curative, some stuff like that. Again, there's a lot of shops to be had here. There's the cucumber stand, the meat stand, the puppet theater, infant malnutrition medicine shop, and then again the stats for the people that are there. The tannery district, the north residences, like the gazebo, the real estate agent, the fortune teller. You've got the square. Obviously, it's going to be a big section here. And a lot of work went into this. He's got a lot of interesting information, a lot of cool imaginations that's poured out into this book. It is slightly marred for people with that font that some people might not enjoy, but I think I've gotten used to it after I've looked at it for such a while. It takes you a little while to get used to it, and then you start realizing what those letters actually are. And And so you've got the nobles, they're up there at the Red Mansion, the castle, the Obsidian Mansion, the Red Tennis Court. Tennis is a big deal, much like that big tennis champion. The Pearl's an interesting place. In many, like, if you go to an older kind of city or town in Europe, a lot of times they have these roads that kind of just, they don't have any real rhyme and reason. They cut back, they have small turns, small alleyways. You get lost in the Pearl. There's something very kind of almost magical about it, and you need help once you get into the Pearl if you fail your intelligence check to get out of the Pearl. And that leads you to some interesting information that you'll find, as well as NPCs that you'll encounter that hopefully will help you get out of the Pearl. There's also, it's run by a bunch of carp children. They're children that have the face of carp, and they are overall turds and will commence at a bunch of hijinks. You've got the West Gate, the Bawdy Basket, it's a bunch of turds pretty much, a bunch of cutthroats and knaves, and it's got a bunch of their stats here that you'll run across, and they've all got interesting, weird type of personalities. It says here that this guy will swear and maintain falsehoods that are so blatantly wrong that no one believes him, for the more he swears, the less he is to be believed. So he will claim 2 outrageous things before telling the characters 1 true rumor. And of course, there is a list of rumors about the place. There's a section of confidence games, which is interesting. It says here, like, a mystic is praying beneath a small tree. While prostrating themselves, the tree bends over into its crown is at the mystic's feet. It stays in this position until the mystic stops praying. So just some interesting, weird things that are going on there. And then some great tables here. Table of festivals. They have a bunch of strange festivals. The Feast of Fools, Feast of the Asses, Bow Practice Day, the Leaping Over of the Babies, the Feast of Greater Tennis, the Feast of the Hermits. There's a section here on rumors, whether or not they're true and false. If a player has missed a session, what has happened to their character? So the character maybe was lost in the Pearl for the time elapsed. The character entered the wrong doorway and fell through the floor of a derelict building. They were knocked unconscious, but when they awoke, they found the deed to the building. The character was backing out of the way of a gaggle of geese and bumped their head on a low-hanging sign, knocking them out. Let's see. It says maybe they found a mirror with curious designs on it. The characters were arrested and detained by the noble retinue or on false charges and paid a 100 coin bribe in exchange for their freedom. If the individual character lacks the funds, the party will have to pay. So some interesting stuff should somebody decide to unfortunately miss a session. The characters missing a pinky finger on their offhand and missing their memory of their time spent apart from the party. They are not aware of this, but have aligned themselves with the Hogoks. The Hogoks know who the character is and are friendly towards them. So some interesting stuff there. If you drink the soil drink, which is a very crazy beer, some things might happen. You might pass out and 6 hours wake up. And it's very much like some video games where something weird happened once you get really, really drunk. You may have accidentally or purposefully burned down a building, so on and so forth. The character is afflicted in their obscene parts with the following. It could be a disease or something, so very humorous. There's a section on law and crime. There's a section on the economy, buying, selling, bribing, shops and hirelings, a reaction table, magical mishap particulars to the village, or the real estate table if you want to purchase a home in this place. There's a section here on villagers, such as how they are, their mannerisms, their names, how they kind of are. Are they apathetic? Are they cankerous? Are they busy, cryptic, impressionable, confused? What type trade they might have, some things that may have on them. There is a real tennis mini game that you play here, which is very cool. It uses your different attribute score to give you a die, and you're going to serve across the way here, moving a token that might go into a magic space or a gambit space, and that's going to affect, you're going to be able to make these rolls off of like intelligence or like wisdom, and these are going to be more like strength and dexterity down here to get so that you can make a score. If you get arrested, the metaphorical trial dungeon here, you're going to have kind of like a little dungeon crawl, and you will be judged by the Judge Rooster, which is very funny, and also has some semblance to real life town of Scio. And then you have the tomb of Fubs Yano Bumfit, a high-ranking noble of some long-forgotten country. He was buried in a traditional stone elephant tomb adorned with a crab claw. So a tribute to his epithet, the Great Claw. Over the aeons, the tomb was lost, but as a consequence of recent circumstances, it has risen to the surface. The stone claw, now conspicuously revealed to the sky in the oak savanna to the east of the village. So it's got one thing that's here that's pretty neat. Whenever something happens, you roll on this once per hallway, once per rest, and once per handful of minutes of party discourse or idle chatter. You're going to roll on this. It could be an encounter, it could be an event, or they might come across treasure. And so here's the map of it. It's a little bit abstract, but it's very cool. So there's the claw sticking out. There's a tunnel to get down in there as well. And this huge elephant is a dungeon that's buried deep underneath the ground. You'll come across a lot of strange things and weird items. There's a bunch of dogs and obviously encounters to be had, again, with this kind of point system to take you to different places. There's a mummified garden, a latrine. There is the main staircase, the model city room, the tomb guardian, the great claw. And one thing is funny, this is spoiling this, is this mummy here. It says, every round of strangling an opponent, he exclaims one of the following rare insults. I dry my dirty underwear on your mother's home altar. May the cat eat you and the devil eat the cat. You are the fatty layer on my warm milk. Make excrement in the ocean. So that. I think that one's good. Masturbate on a dog's image. Heaven, thunder, weather. Urine in the milk. Milk, sop, and muff. Go threaten geese. Your butt is red. Son of an owl. Buttonhole. Old hat. For some reason, that really got me good. So yeah, a cool little dungeon crawl here. There's a dogs and dog captains that you're going to face off with. And there's an abbreviated bestiary here telling you about the carp children, revenants. I can't even pronounce that word there. The brass horsemen. And then you've got a faction worksheet telling you all about the different factions that are in this place. So the enthusiasts, the familists, the nobles retinue, the swineherd, the sentient decorator crab and friends, the sacred goose, the scarred goose, the village preservation society. Very fun. There's undefined areas worksheet here, so such as like the goose master. There is the body basket, the carp children. You've got a cool index here. Obviously, it's going to be very good. And then it says here, fearlessly rip that player map out of the book. So this is going to be that player map for the players. And there's some interesting stuff here from the arch noble Zebedee. Here's the play mat that you need to play the tennis. And then here's a setting section of a map here with Scio resting right there amongst it. So you can have some further adventures outside the town. There is a character sheet, which is a little busy in here, but I do like the way it looks. Obviously, it goes very much with the aesthetic of his books. And that is a very short glimpse of the honest and plain village of Scio. Now, of course, the time of this video is not short, but there's just so much that's in this book that I just can't cover it all. You know, I've been in this situation before. I like to tell you so many things, but I don't want this video to go on for a couple of hours. So overall, what are my impressions of this? I like the humor of it. I like the absurdity of it. I like the fact that he's taken this and like even this little thing down here is something that is referenced in the book. This little box right here. He's had fun with this, and this is something that I think is going to be an interesting village for players to come across. It may not be exactly what other villages are like, but if you go here, I think that the strangeness of the people, how they are, their factions, the stuff they're about, all the crazy festivals that are happening all the time, such as right here. It's going to be something fun and exciting for them. But your players may be like, "Wow, this place really stands out as being different. Something must really be going on strange here." But it's not. It's just a whole town full of some wackiness, and it's a lot of fun. It's got a neat dungeon in the back, it's fairly standard kind of dungeon crawl. I do like how it's located underneath in this big elephant that's buried underneath the ground. This stone elephant. I think that's very cool. A lot of neat NPCs, some interesting art to show your players. Obviously, going with that old school feel to it. So I think it's fun. Some people will hate this font here. I'm glad that there's another PDF that people can get that's going to be more easily to read for them. But there's a lot of wackiness and a lot of funny things that people say in the town Again, I can't go over all of it, but overall I'm very pleased with it. Very much like a groat's worth of grotesques. They fit very well together in this kind of strange, absurd world that he's created. And overall, I think it's going to be a cool pickup, especially if you just want to get another village that's been really fleshed out and that you can play for OSR games. Even if you don't have a lot of this, you don't want a lot of absurdity that's in here, you've still got a fleshed out city with some cool stuff going on. It makes it unique. I mean, here they sell cucumbers and soil beer. Uh, that's very bizarre. So like right here, it says see cover illustration for a scene from the cup and cupboard. Try to find the alabaster box, and the alabaster box is an important part of this adventure. I mean, this village that's in there. And so, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of fun, and it's gonna be a pretty cool, fun, wacky pickup for you. But he's got a lot of neat imagination. He's used what he's found in these pieces of art and extrapolated from that to create an interesting mini setting with a lot of wacky characters. So there it is, the honest and plain village of Scio. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everybody that subscribed to the channel. Like, subscribe, share this with your friends and any of my other videos. Check out a groat's worth of grotesques, another great pickup from Mr. Patterson. So there it is. Thanks a lot.